Today I'm deep diving into the Trogs from Disenchantment and how they might just connect to the Og dynasty. Hey guys, welcome to the Fangirl. I'm McGann, and I've been obsessing over details in series since The Simpsons was a new thing. And I know I can't be the only one who's noticed that Matt has taken details to an entirely new level in Disenchantment. I mean, not only are there Futurama Easter eggs everywhere in the show, which just reaffirms my theory that Disenchantment and Dreamland are all a big part of Bender's game, but these Trogs are hidden all over the place too. Now, if you need a refresher, Trogs are these black-eyed, mole-like creatures that live underneath Dreamland, and they wander around through these secret tunnels that only the Trogs can fit through. So what are these guys, and why are they exclusive to Dreamland? Well, the first time that we openly see the Trogs at the end of Season 2, my first impression was that these were some kind of cursed elves. I mean, the Trogs are roughly the same size as the elves, and Levo was out there on a quest to find something that was elf-related in the same vicinity that the Trogs are in, so everything seemed to fit. However, what we learn in Part 3 of Disenchantment is that the Trogs follow a savior and they worship the moon, neither of which the elves are really known to do in this universe. As Part 3 progresses, Levo and the King Elf also find a long, lost throne room that supposedly used to belong to the Elf Kingdom. And then we have that budding issue of the Og dynasty being cursed by their enemies. And I think all three of those story arcs are very closely connected. Now, do keep in mind that this series is still being produced, so at any given time, the writers could introduce something new that just totally throws us for a loop. But even with the limited amount of information that we get about the Og family curse, it seems pretty easy to infer that there was some big war fought before Dreamland was formed hundreds of years ago. I believe that war was against the elves. And even though elves seem way too tiny to do much damage versus a real human soldier, don't forget that the elves do have their own military and defenses. Plus, they have things like poisonous candy and at least some magic at their disposal, so I think they could be pretty fierce if attacked. But, you know, elves are still these baby-sized creatures, so they likely wouldn't be able to defeat an enemy who has full-size arrows and swords and horses, which would mean that after the elves got defeated, they'd want to seal themselves away in a space that man could never enter and take over again. Heck, they'd probably want a place that mankind could never even see again. And isn't that the exact kind of place that we see the elves in Part 1 of the series? Think about it. If elves are powerful enough to hide their entire world from humans, wouldn't they also be powerful enough to put a heinous curse on the king that stole their land? Oh, definitely. And that's where the Og curse was born, starting with, who was the first? I know the line is alphabetical, so it's Aog or Arog or something like that. So there we go. Curse explained, Lost Elf Kingdom explained. Now to go into the Trogs. There are two possibilities that I could see working. Either the Trogs used to be elves who died in battle and got resurrected, hence why they kind of look like these hollowed out elves, or they're elves who didn't help in the war or maybe even sided with the humans in the war, and so they got cursed along with the Og family. Usually when I do a theory, I tend to lean one way more than the other, but in this case, I really can't decide which is the more likely scenario. But it is hard to ignore that the Ogs use an O that has a line through it, and I tried to look up what that was called, but unlike umlauts, there doesn't seem to be a name for that. However, the Trogs make this big fuss that the O in their name also has a strike through it, and that is particularly odd. As far as we've seen, the Og dynasty and the Trogs are the only ones in the Disenchantment universe who uses that specific letter. And that just has to be a clue that the two are related somehow. However, whether that connection is that a Meruvian witch resurrected the Trogs so that they could be minions in the Og army, or the Trogs were just loyal servants to the Og family, that's something I can't distinguish yet. But where elves are these very bright, happy creatures that are all rainbows and butterflies, Trogs are almost doomed to be these subterranean creatures that worship the night. They're polar opposites. And I do not think think that that's an accident. Although, I guess it is worth noting that the lost throne room of the Elf Kingdom was also found underground. So it really seems like Dreamland built itself up on the ruins of the last empire. So if the Trogs did used to be elves, their homes may have been buried when the Dreamland castle was constructed. And maybe that's why they've adapted to being so mole-like after hundreds of years of living like that. But I definitely believe that the Trogs are connected to the Og curse as well, and that's why they need that savior that will, I don't know, I kind of think release them from their subterranean world. Which I predict that Bean, Lucy, and Elfo are gonna win some big war and then hand Dreamland back over to the elves. Bean doesn't really seem to want to be queen, and Derek is definitely on a new path now, so there's really nobody to take over Dreamland. So rather than find some new tyrant family to be a brand new dynasty of the kingdom, it does make more sense that it will just be returned to the elves, and then the elves will do with it what they please. They'll go back to whatever it was they did before on that land, I guess. Growing trees, baking cookies kind of thing? I don't know. And again, the writers might come up with something completely different by the time part 4 comes out, but so far, all the clues seem to fit that the Og curse, the Lost Elf Kingdom, and the Trogs are all pieces of the same puzzle. But I guess we will all find out together when part 4 of Disenchantment eventually comes out. It might not be reality, but theories are more fun. However, what we learn in part 3 of Disenchantment is that Trogs follow a savior and they worship the moon, neither of which are way too small to do much damage versus, real life warriors. Warriors. Even though elves seem way too tiny to do a lot of damage versus a real life warrior. And even though elves seem way too small to do much damage versus a human soldier, can I not speak today? No, I cannot. It seems pretty easy to infer that there was some big war. Levo and the King Elf also find a long-lost throne room that supposedly, what a world am I saying? However, whether that connection is that a Meruvian witch brought the Trogs back to life so that they could be minions in the Trog army, come on! So there we go, curse explained, Lost Elf Kingdom. And isn't that exactly where we find the elves in part 1 of the series? And isn't that the exact kind of place that we find the elves in part 1 of the series? You can do it! You can do it all night long. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.